Hey guys, welcome back to Break the Gate podcast with Rod and Chris. Today we have my friend Johnny Grimes, who is a managing partner at Furnace Fest. Thank you so much, Johnny, for coming on today.
Yeah, stoked to be here.
Cool, man. Can you just kind of go ahead a little bit into your background and how you got started and where you're at right now?
Yeah, so one of the managing partners of Furnace Fest, there's actually four partners, two based in Nashville, one's based in Dallas, and I'm actually based here in Birmingham, Alabama, where we hold the festival. Um, so, I mean, if your folks don't know, Furnace Fest was a pretty small DIY music festival put on by our founder and one of my partners, Chad Johnson, in the early 2000s. So it was a small festival from 2000 to 2003. I mean, it had some great bands play. Everybody from Andrew WK to Stretch Armstrong to Avenged Sevenfold and Dillinger Escape Plan. So some,
So sick.
yeah, I mean, insane lineup. And so, man, probably 8 years ago, I started just pestering Chad because we've been friends since I was 15, and just pestering him about, let's do Furnace Fest again. Let's reunite this thing. Let's pick it back up. And he was completely uninterested for the first few years, and I guess the persistence paid off. And 2020 started rolling around, and was like, hey man, 20 years later, it's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So anyway, we got together. We brought on Ryan Luther, who's a mutual friend of ours, who's based in Nashville as well. And then we thought, well, okay, none of us really have like actually legit experience putting on a large music festival. So let's find somebody that's got experience in kind of that world. And that's when we got put in contact with Mike Zemer out of Dallas with Third Stream Productions. And so hit it off and decided to bring him on as well. And the rest is history, man. We're going into our third year, what I think is one of our best lineups. And so, yeah, man, pretty excited about it.
Sweet. Can you go into describing some of the challenges that you face as organizing a music festival of this size? I know you said that early on you weren't, super familiar with it, but now that you've gotten, some skin in the game a little bit, can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you remember, the first year we had to postpone because it was 2020, even right in the middle of COVID. So that presented a significant challenge. If I'm honest, there was a point in time there where we were like, okay, we're not going to do this thing and we're going to lose a shit ton of money. And because we had already started promoting ticket sales, and then we had to pay bands out and, pay deposits on production and venue and those types of things. And we didn't know if we were going to get that money back. And then, of course, we were going to refund everybody for ticket sales. And so, man, just being under that pressure and that stress and trying to figure out what was the right move. You want to be safe from a standpoint of not spreading COVID or being one of those super spreader events to also doing right by everybody who bought tickets. So we came out and we basically said, look, we're going to have to postpone, and we will refund you your money if you request it. But if not, we would appreciate you not. If you still plan on coming, please don't ask for a refund. And man, our people were so amazing. I can't remember the percentage of people who asked for refunds, but it was minimal, which gave us the ability to not fold shop.
Yeah.
And it was really, so those individuals who bought tickets in 2020 or 2019 and in early 2020 is the reason why Furnace Fest is still here, because
Beautiful.
So it was minimal. It gives us the ability to push pause, but also to continue to strategically plan on what we want to do. And so because there was such just overwhelming support, we were like, well, let's take this time to think through how we can make the festival better and potentially bigger. And so we decided to add a third stage, main stage, and go after a couple of bigger names. So yeah,
Okay.
starting out, that was probably the biggest challenge right in the middle of a pandemic. We had to postpone twice. But then, of course, you've got the financial concerns and those types of things that come along with putting on a pretty large live music event.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, and we're just four dudes who um, have other jobs. So
Mm-hmm.
this is very much a kind of a side project, passion project for us, and
Sure.
so yeah, I mean, we're just we navigated some significant financial, you know, I guess strain, especially last
Mm-hmm.
year.
Yeah.
Um, and then just managing COVID and those types of things. And then, of course, just forming a new business and all those things can be a little bit challenging.
Okay.
You, I was gonna say
Yeah.
you slightly touched base on something. Were you guys booking beforehand, minus the partner that you added in? Like, so had you booked a show prior to this festival, or what got you motivated to want to get on the back end of a festival like this?
Yeah. So Ryan had some booking experience. I think back in the late '90s, early 2000s, he was just booking small shows and clubs. So he had a little bit of experience and some relationships with agents. Chad owned a small DIY music venue in Birmingham called Slacker 66. That's how we met. And so he had been booking shows for a while, but also worked for Solid State. So his small
Right.
independent record label.
Yeah, for sure. Tooth and
Yeah,
nail in Solid State.
yeah, yeah. So he started Take Hold and signed Under Oath and Me Without You and some of these other great bands. But Tooth and Nail and Solid State came in and bought him out and moved him to Seattle. So he had always been in the music industry, and um, so yeah, he had experience there as well. I had experience in putting on large events, and but then Mike, of course, had the most experience because he was doing So What at the time, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's his regular job at Third String Production is just booking shows, predominantly in
Mm-hmm.
Dallas and Houston and Austin, but so he's got a pretty big footprint in Texas.
Okay. Question that wasn't on our list here, and if I apologize if it's a little invasive.
No, it's
Where
all
does
right.
the funding for something like this come from? Is it all out of pocket, or do you have to
Mm-hmm.
you have investors, or you just get a bank loan, or?
Well, when we started, it was just us four guys,
Mm-hmm.
and we had kind of bootstrapped it, and so we didn't need
Okay.
investors, um, thankfully,
Yeah.
because we didn't really want to give up any of the creative control of this event because we had a very defined view of what we wanted this event to be,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean, we really just bootstrapped it, so we didn't have to bring in investors, didn't have to come out of pocket significantly,
Mm-hmm.
so we were able to continue to do our full-time jobs, but also to be able to manage this thing. So we started pretty small. The original idea was to sell out the original footprint, which was in the shed at Sloss Furnaces, which is one of the most unique and amazing venues in the
Mm-hmm.
country. But it's about 3,600 people. And
Wow.
so the original vision was just to sell that out. And we sold that out in, maybe 3 hours. And
Wow.
so that gave us the ability to take that money and invest it into the company, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and then start paying out deposits for bands and insurance and production and, all
Sure.
those types of things. And so when you start small, we didn't have to have a significant amount of money up front. But last year posed some significant financial issues for us. We didn't sell near as many tickets. The economy was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Travel was like significantly high, and to travel into Birmingham cost double what it would any other kind of major city. And
Yeah.
so travel cost was real high, so our numbers were down, and so that really did put us in a financial bind. And so we
Yeah.
creatively got out of that. And so thankfully we didn't have to bring investors on, but that we did consider that at one point in time.
Sure. Yeah, it's expensive to fly into Birmingham.
It is, man.
I was living out in Huntsville for work at one point, and whenever I wanted to go out that area, I would have to. It would be easier to drive, cheaper to drive out there than it would be just to fly to Birmingham, because I would go back and forth between Milwaukee and Alabama quite a bit, and I'd be
Yeah.
flying once a month at least. So it was always cheaper to fly into Huntsville and drive,
Yeah,
but
yeah, or flying to Atlanta and drive
or
over as
flying.
well.
Yep,
So
exactly.
a lot of people do that. But man, it's expensive. The airport's great. You know, it's
Yeah.
small. You can literally get out of your car and be at your gate in
Yep.
12 minutes. You know, so
Right.
I mean
Right.
that's the advantage. But you are going to pay a little bit more flying out or flying into Birmingham.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So your market, I guess, is an interesting one, right? You're not like a city like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. So what do you think has set you apart from other festivals, and how did you get the eyes and people willing to come to your actual market to go to this festival? Because that's like Milwaukee. Milwaukee's growing now, but like if we had your festival in Milwaukee, there would be like 12 people there. There's
Yeah.
no way it would be successful. So how
Right.
did you do that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that set us apart. Not that our festival is any better than any other festival, but you know, because we are very focused on a very specific genre, I think it has a pretty big draw. I mean, we've sold tickets in all 50 states and over 22 countries, and so,
Wow.
but you know, we also focused on reuniting bands from the late 90s, early 2000s who were very influential or popular in that time, kind of in the punk, hardcore, and indie rock scene. And
For
so,
sure.
well, we were the first that was really doing that. You know, outside of like Riot Fest would get Misfits or whoever. You know, we were the first festival that really did that, and we really focused on some key reunions that we knew that would have a significant draw in the first year. And
Who were the
so,
couple of bands, like while you're going about that, what bands were you focusing on, and how did you go about actually getting those bands to come and do this festival?
yeah, so we launched the whole thing with Beloved. And so,
Sick.
yeah, I mean, Beloved was an amazing band at the time and was just widely popular and put out this incredible album and then just broke up. And they were on track to be, you know, just as big and popular as say Under Oath. And but then broke up out of the blue and hadn't played a show in like 15 years. And so that was the holy grail for us year one, and also Stretch Armstrong. And so Stretch Armstrong wasn't huge by no means, but they were widely influential. And they were one of my favorite bands. And so I was like, I'm just going to, whatever we got to do to make this happen, let's make it happen. And so I think those two bands were significant draws that first year. And then Under Oath, who had not played like a big show in a while. They had broken up for a little bit. I think they've done a few things, but it was kind of I think it was one of their first big shows back before they launched a big tour. Yeah, I may be wrong on that timeline, but and so those were kind of the two holy grails for us year one.
Okay. So that worked for first year. And obviously the industry is evolving quite a bit, and a lot of different changes are happening on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And trying to stay on that edge is difficult. How do you plan to stay ahead of the curve with that of forever evolving industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's something that, you know, you have to constantly be thinking about, trying to see around the curve, so to speak. And for us, you know, the one thing that we don't want to do is kind of go away from that core, you know, identity of who we are, which is a smaller music festival that really focuses on the community of people that come. And so we want that experience for them when they buy a ticket to when they come, and the moment they leave, they can say, man, that was one of the best musical experiences that I've had. So what we want to do is add significant value to the person that's coming. And that can be tough when the expenses of putting on a music festival are so high, because at that point in time, you're using a significant portion of your budget and paying, the artist guarantees and then production and, everything. And so that's one thing that we really want to focus on, giving significant value to to the people that come. And then also just, we're a punk, hardcore, indie rock, music festival. And so that's where we stay. And that's not to say that if this thing continues to grow and we continue to do it, that we won't pull a really large band name in to do something. But that's who we are. So we're always going to be having the Terrors and Banes and, Beloved if they ever do anything again. And then, so we're really focusing on that genre and that demographic.
Sure. Okay.
Because you're seeing a lot of these massive festivals happening. Like, what's the one in Vegas? Like when we were young.
Oh, when we were young.
Yeah, when we were young.
Like, a lot of those are coming through, but it seems like you're going through, like, I would say my era of bands when you're talking about Beloved, when you're talking about Stretch Armstrong, Small Brown Bike, Engine Down. All those bands were like forgotten about, but not really. Like, we still love them. Like, that core fan is still there. And these festivals aren't focusing on that. So I think you will always have your lane there. That's so sick.
Yeah,
I agree. So, man. And by the way, I've asked Small Brown Bike every year. And so, man, hopefully the persistence will pay off there too, because they were one of my favorite bands.
Dude, Small Brown Bike is probably one of the most underrated bands. And like what they were doing when they were doing it was so sick. It was
amazing.
I don't know. We could talk that music all day.
I think they played Furnace Fest in 2002, and they played on the side stage. And I remember being like one of 50 people that were over there, and just blown away because they played like the place was packed out, Beautiful. And so they were fantastic.
That's amazing.
I feel like that was that era, and that's probably what you're still able to capture, is the fact that like when you're authentic and you're doing something because you love it, you see it in its craft. Like someone who makes something because they're passionate about it, you see it when they start it from when they're like done with it. So like bands like Small Brown Bike, Engine Down. I have a Felix Coppola tattoo. That was one of my favorite bands in Illinois. They made me want to be a musician. So like just going back into your memories, like you can't fake that. And you see a lot of bands reuniting for the money, and you're just like, they're dying inside. They hate every second of it. Where like a band like Small Brown Bike, that would just be a freaking experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be. But you can absolutely tell the difference between somebody who's up there and loving it.
Yes.
To somebody who's up there just collecting a paycheck. And so it is different. And it's a great point.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit, but not to the full extent. Can you go into what it looks like organizing the festival from kind of beginning to end? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to.
So
it doesn't have to be a 2-hour explanation.
It's probably the whole time.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So it's kind of a feast or famine, experience. So early on, we start booking bands for the next year. Probably 2 days after the festival. We haven't got in the habit of booking, say, 2024 now, which we probably should do. Mm-hmm. We haven't gotten that habit yet because we don't have those kind of workflows worked out. But like September 28th is when we really start going, okay, here are the top 15 bands that we're going after, and start trying to book those bands, and then kind of working down the list, so to speak. So a significant portion of your time in that late part of the year, September to December, early January, is just mostly booking bands and negotiating contracts and reaching out to agents. And then, if there are a few key reunions that you're working on, that always takes 10 times longer. And so because you're talking to 5 or 6, folks that are in the band, and so they're is it worth it? Is it not worth it? One person wants to do it, but 2 don't. And so that always takes a significant amount of time. And but we just 2 weeks ago had the full team in Birmingham, and we basically kicked off the whole production side of things, where we met with our production teams, everybody who's doing staging, lighting, sound, security, sanitation, I mean, everything, and kind of kick that into high gear. And so there was a drop in time between, March and April, but now it's just like it's full on focusing on production and getting everything that you have to do in order to put on a successful event. That really starts now in terms of the the X's and O's for us. But we have a fantastic team here locally as well, and so so booking bands, a little bit of a lull, and then it kicks off straight production, literally all the way into mid-September, and then you just put the show on and hope it goes well.
Fair enough. Sorry if you can hear my emails coming in.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going through, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
For the listener who doesn't understand what he's talking about with production, a good sound guy is the difference between that show kicking ass and not. So like knowing that and having that down to a science, having like a solid PA system, and the thing that gets overlooked that he brought up that's kind of cool is the sanitary aspect of it. Like the last thing you want is 10,000 people there, no place to take a shit.
Yeah.
Right.
And now everyone's just leaving. So,
Yeah.
so when that's going through, what is your actual goal to like have everything booked, production done? Do you guys give yourself like, we need this done 3 months before the festival? Because there are some fests where it's like, it's a month out and they're still booking headliners. Like, what does that look like for you guys?
No, we definitely want the majority of the lineup done by March, and so so that we can just promote it and and get people excited. And that's not to say a band won't drop off and then we have to replace them. There's always stuff like that happening. But yeah, we want that done by March, April at the latest. And then we really try to have the production side of things, at least all the vendors and suppliers and all of our core team members locked in place and working, by late May, and then it's just at that point in time focusing on ticket sales and sponsorships and then offering significant value to everybody that comes. And so, okay, we have 800 people a day in VIP. What are the 3 things that we can add to the VIP experience that's going to blow their minds? And then just going out and making it work. And so it's just a lot of detail, a lot of planning, a lot of emails. But we really try to have everything wrapped up with a significant amount of time to just kind of sit back and relax. Because at least from our 4 partners is we want to go into the festival and not have a significant amount of stress and can enjoy the festival. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's key.
yeah.
Because then it's not even worth it,
Yeah.
So I want to switch topics here just to kind of talk about some of your other endeavors, because I know Furnace Fest isn't your full-time job. You started a company, a salon called Wheelhouse Salon, right? And you've managed to grow that to 3 locations, 65 employees, which is super impressive. What inspired you to start that, and how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so my wife, we've actually been together since she was 15. I was 17 when we started dating. Wow. And so we've been together a long time. I'm 43 now, but and we were just young punk teenagers who were cutting our own hair and dyeing our own hair and doing all that stuff. And she's been passionate about it since she was a teenager. And so we knew that that's exactly what she was going to do. And she just kind of, for the first, 7 or 8 years of her career was just crushing it. One of the most, well-respected, popular, sought after hairstylist in Birmingham. And so there came a point in time where she just kind of hit that ceiling, and I've always been more entrepreneurial and loved to start things, and so we just started talking and thinking about, hey, what would it look like if we started a hair salon? And so we did. Our middle daughter's adopted, and
Beautiful.
yeah, she's adopted from Ethiopia, and so we went through that process and got her home. And the moment we got home, Courtney started saying, "Look, I want a little bit more flexibility." And being able to leave when I need to leave and do all that stuff. And where she currently was working was a great place, had a great owner and a great boss, but that flexibility wasn't there. And I was like, let's just do it and see what happens. So we launched it, and within 6 months, we launched with 2 hairstylists, so Courtney and another lady and a front desk person. Within 6 months, we were busting out of the seams of this little boutique house in the middle of Homewood, Alabama. And then within 4 years, we were actually at 4 locations with 78, 79 employees. 2 of them were in Birmingham, but during COVID, we consolidated that market and just went to our large location right in the heart of downtown Birmingham, because I own the building in Homewood, so that gave me the ability to lease that out and have some money coming in, because when we closed for almost 3 months, there was 0 money coming in. And so we were just getting very strategic in how to stay afloat. But yeah, it's been a passion of my wife's for the longest. I had the business side, the business administrative side, and kind of that know-how to focus on that, because that's not her. She's a creative, she's an artist. And it's just been a really good partnership. So, we've got Birmingham, we've got Huntsville, Alabama, and then we've got Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay. Where in Huntsville is it?
It's right downtown on Jefferson Street.
Oh, maybe I've seen it.
Yeah. So
I
it's
probably
right,
passed by it.
yeah, no doubt. It's right downtown. It's next to Melt and a lot of those
Okay.
restaurants right in there.
Yeah. I used to go to
Honest.
this whiskey bar over in Huntsville, downtown Huntsville. I forgot the name of it, but we were talking about whiskey in the email. And
Yeah, man.
that's what made me think about it.
Yeah, there's a few great bars and restaurants up there, man. I mean, Huntsville's blowing and going. It's one of our busiest salons. That city's growing. It's now the largest city in the state of Alabama, and
Wow.
everything from NASA to the FBI to
Right. Yeah.
Facebook, everybody, Amazon, they all got massive places of operation there. So that city's blowing up.
You know what's cool is that school that they turned into like a restaurant, district.
Bar, breweries, everything. I can't remember the name of the school, but it's
But they have
really
Hops and
cool.
Guac there, which is my favorite taco place to go to.
I don't trust it anymore. You cannot talk about tacos. We won't have that discussion.
That's fair. I love the taco place that he hates in here in Milwaukee.
It's terrible.
He's like, man, you got to try these tacos. It's Taco Bell,
game.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, no.
Yep.
Hey, so you talked about having an adoptive. Was it a daughter?
Yeah, our daughter. Yep.
Your daughter's
Middle daughter.
How did that come about? And was that always a life goal of yours? Was that your wife's goal? How did you find yourself in that role?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's always been, I guess, on our hearts, so to speak, since we were pretty young. And we knew at some point in time we were going to adopt. We just didn't know how, and we didn't know where. And so, yeah, man, I mean, it's something that we talked about way before we even got married. And so we knew we were going to do it, man. I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. And so a lot of it has to come through those values that we have that have kind of been, I think, just deeply instilled in us. Not to say that you have to be a Christian to adopt, because we have friends who are unbelievers and who have adopted and amazing parents or anything like that. But It's just kind of been at the heart of who we are as people and how God shaped us. And so, yeah, the opportunity just kind of presented itself. And we knew we were going to adopt international as well, just
Yeah.
because, we're super passionate about, the world and all its many cultures and all its many
Yeah.
people, and learning as much as we possibly can. And we really feel like it was God who kind of led us to Ethiopia, but then also, gave us our daughter whose name's Penelope. But
Yeah. Oh, I
so
love
yeah,
that
man,
name.
I think it's been instilled in us from a higher power, and we love it. And
Yeah.
it's been challenging, it's been difficult, but man, it's been so worth it.
Johnny, I'll tell you this firsthand, and I've never publicly discussed this before, but my parents came here illegally from Cuba,
Yeah.
and I was adopted at 11.
Oh,
And when I was 22, I got to meet my biological family, and I looked at how being adopted changed my scope and perspective, like
hmm,
my literacy and things of that nature. So you might not know it now, but those battles are definitely worth it. And when she's old enough to really comprehend what you did for her, it's
yeah.
gonna just mean the freaking world to her. Because when I
Yeah.
look
Wow,
back at
dude.
some of the stuff that I complained about, I'm like, oh, I could have
Yeah.
lived there.
Yeah.
That's freaking
Yeah.
nuts. So just
Dude,
know
that's cool that
firsthand.
you said
Yeah.
that, and thank you for saying that, man. Our daughter is 11. She's amazing. She's the sweetest and most kind human being on the
Yeah.
planet. Like, I envy her, and so we've been very open and honest with her, about her birth family, and that's her story. But we've told her everything, and we've got a lot of pictures and just a lot of documentation that we just like, look here, this is where you were born, and this is why
Mm-hmm.
you were adopted, and you're in our family now, and we're gonna love you. But if and we do plan on taking her back to Ethiopia so that she can, just see the culture and meet the people, and she's
Yeah.
super excited about that. But man, thanks for saying that. That does mean a lot.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's amazing. And speaking of doing good things, you were working with a company called Know More Orphans as a
Yeah.
director of international partnerships.
Hmm.
Did this happen after your adoption or before, or was it kind of all integrated?
Yeah, it was integrated for sure. It was kind of right in the middle of that because Penelope's been home for 10 years now. So, but yeah, I was kind of in the middle of that, and I had
Yeah.
the opportunity to help form that organization
Okay.
with some other key board members. And like other things, it kind of blew up. And what we were focusing on was supporting adoptive and fostering families.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we had seen is there was a ton of support getting kids placed in homes, but there wasn't a lot of support when the kids
After.
got home. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the most difficult part, and trying to help those kids integrate and help the parents figure out how this works. And so we really just started supporting families to the best of our ability, and it birthed into this really cool organization where we focused on writing curriculum and putting on events and creating
Yeah.
small groups, and but then had the ability to kind of go in and partner with an organization that's based in Haiti,
Okay.
and called
Cool.
the Haiti Collective. And so
Okay.
we partnered with them and launched a massive medical program, and
Mm-hmm.
where we did medical clinics all over the country, and launched a nutritional program where we feed about 500 kids a day. Still been able to feed the kids currently, but we haven't been able to do anything there for the past few years just because of the political instability and the violence and those types of things. We have Haitian partners that we still support,
Yeah.
but man, we haven't been able to. There's been no boots on the ground, so that's been a massive issue for us, and
Mm-hmm.
it's broken our hearts. But we still are able to. At this point in time, it doesn't look like that we're going to be able to get another shipment of food to our partners, kind of in the heart of Haiti. But yeah, we've still got about 500 kids that we're doing our best to
Yeah.
support.
So you've gone through a lot so far. You've talked about your parent role, your husband, your businesses, your obviously religious, and then your festival. How are you balancing your work life,
Yeah.
Yeah.
entrepreneurial like point of view and perspective, like how do you balance everything?
Because Rod and I are very similar that way too. We have 1,000 things going on at the same time. So yeah, I'm always curious on somebody like yourself who's very successful in everything they're doing, you know, and we look up to somebody like you know, how, like not to iron that out more, but how do you work that out?
Man. I mean, it's a challenge because I've always been a workaholic, I guess, and so balance for me is something that I intentionally have to work on, and so there's a couple of things that I do. One, I really focus on building my management team, and so at the few businesses that I have, we have excellent managers in place. And so I work directly with them, support them, encourage them, help them build processes and systems within the company so that things are efficiently done on time, and done to the best of our abilities. So having a great team around you is key. But then also I intentionally build in to my day, every day, margin. And so I don't slam my schedule so that like I can't get up and use the restroom.
Sure.
Or because I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And I have so many employees that if somebody needs my time and attention, I have the ability to give it to them. And or man, you know, I'm walking down the street headed to lunch or something, and there's somebody that I can just bump into. You know, I have the ability to stop and have a 10-minute conversation with that individual because I haven't stacked my schedule. I learned quickly that when I was stacking my schedule so that I didn't have time to just stop and decompress, man, I was just so stressed.
Sure.
And it wasn't benefiting me, and it wasn't benefiting my team, and it wasn't benefiting my wife and or kids. So having a good team for me and building in margin in my day is key.
Yeah, that's solid advice, and something that I should definitely do more. I mean, for me, like I was in school full time, working full time. I'm doing this podcast, and then I'm also starting running this festival out in Madison, Wisconsin. It's kind of a low key festival for cannabis reform. And Rod's been helping me out with that too. But yeah, it's just there's a slew of things that I do, and I just because I love doing it, it doesn't even seem like work to me. But like you said, you have to be able to designate time to breathe, because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself crazy. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. And you made a great point. You have to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't love what you're doing, it's always going to be a really heavy load. And so yeah, man, you got to love it. And I absolutely love what I do. I mean, I love working at Wheelhouse. I love Furnace Fest and the few other little things that I've got going. I love doing it. So it brings me joy. It brings me a significant amount of stress, but yeah, I just manage that to the best of my ability.
Okay.
At the end of the day, every one that we've had on the podcast has talked about loving what you do and making sure that like it doesn't feel like it's work. And that's been another theme. So just making sure that like listeners understand that like one, your network is super important, and two, be passionate about what you're doing. If you're doing it for the money, I mean, you can go pick up horse shit and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that.
Right.
But if you're passionate about something, then at the end of the day, the money's going to come. You're never going to worry about it because you're willing to put the extra 17 to 19 extra hours into it, because it's just, it doesn't even feel like work.
Right.
Right.
Coming back to kind of the festival, you talked about Stretch Armstrong and booking them for yourselves. Were there any other bands that you've booked for yourself? And has As Cities Burn ever played your festival?
Yeah. As Cities Burn has played.
Those guys rule.
Oh my gosh, they put on just an incredible show. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. We always start like, who do we want to play the festival, with the question, okay, what are your 3 bands that you want? And mine are always crazy. In terms of, well, they're never going to.
Who are the 3 bands you want? Go. Ready?
Oh man, dude, I I would absolutely kill for an Operation Ivy reunion.
Jesus.
So
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
one.
dude. And so yeah, like Op Ivy would be the holy grail for me. And but I was a skater kid in the late '90s, and so I love hardcore. But man, I grew up on that. Fat Records and
Yeah,
Lookout
the punk rock
Records,
bands.
punk rock, man. So like having Face to Face was a dream. Hot Water Music, of
Dude.
Veil last year.
That's what I was thinking of when we were thinking of Small Brown Bike. I kept saying Engine Down, but I was thinking Hot Water Music. Hot Water Music
Yeah.
used to play our skate park all the time, and they fucking killed it every time.
They
That
are
band
so
rules.
good, so good. I've seen them so many times, and so to have Chuck at the festival and me giving him a 4-pack of our Furnace Fest beer and some of our Furnace Fest hot sauce, man, I was like, dude, this has been a dream, bro.
That's amazing.
And he was like, man, thanks, So yeah, Hot Water Music was incredible, but this year, man, I love that. I love New York hardcore, and so having like Gorilla Biscuit and Youth of Today and Judge play, for me, it's
That
like
is so hard. It goes
I
so
know, man. I
hard.
was just like, the fact that we were able to get it done was incredible, and for me, it's just like, I never got to see any of those bands, and so to be able to see them again, to see them it means a lot to me. So yeah, man.
That's cool. So what kind of advice would you give to any aspiring entrepreneurs or business owners, anybody who's trying to make a festival? You got any key things you would want them to know?
Man, I mean, there's quite a few things, but one would be
Write 'em down.
yeah, one would be to just do it, man.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we let fear stand in the way of us really just taking a shot. And so, or we let the fear of losing or, falling flat on our ass. And we just, we're like, a lot of the times that's debilitating for individuals. And so I would say to step out there and do it. Two, I would say to find a great mentor. For me, it was just getting as much advice as I could from people that have done it before and have done it really well. And so finding mentors, they could, and they can be dead,
Yeah.
like studying the lives of these key individuals who've done amazing things, I think is so important. It helps you build a roadmap to success. So early on in Furnace Fest, we were just literally calling these folks, like people up and saying, hey, would you spend 30 minutes on the phone with us? So I listened to your podcast with Kevin Lyman, and I mean, he's the GOAT, dude. I mean, nobody's done it better than him in this world. And so we got to spend some time on the phone with him and have actually talked to him many times, actually.
Yeah.
So
he's such a good
he's
guy.
so accessible.
He's
such a good guy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we were just, pouring, allowing people to pour into us, I think is key. But then also, is to surround yourself with a really good team.
Yeah. Oh,
And so it's tough for you to be able to hit a grand slam by yourself, especially if you're trying to do something huge.
Right.
And so identify the few people that you can trust and that's going to stretch you, but also add significant value to your team. So typically what we like to do when we have this vision and we want to do something, either we get too scared and we don't do it. We don't learn from other people's mistakes, and we don't allow people to speak into our lives. But then also we pull these people into our teams or into our world who are, just suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, because this guy's my buddy, I'm going to ask him to come on board and do this. But what does he bring to the table? What value is he going to bring to the company? What value is he going to bring to you as a business person? And so pick the right people. Pick the right people to partner with.
Yeah.
I guess that would be my 3 points.
Okay.
I have a really good question. When you started the first year of the festival, your goals were probably different than now. How do you quantify like growing the festival and like what's a success in your mind? Is it like the amount of people who showed up? Was it the booking process? Like, what are you quantifying in your head as like, oh, this year was better than last year, or last year was better than this year? How do you figure that out?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are quite a ways that you can quantify it. For us, we originally said that we were just going to do it 1 year. So, like, even on a lot of our T-shirts, I don't think I have one in my office here, but that it was like the one-time resurrection of Furnace Fest, and we just kind of got in the middle of planning it and seeing that just the love and support that was online, and we were like, man, do we want to just do this 1 year? And so. I mean, we went all the way up to the festival and we were like, we're going to make this decision the week of the festival if we're going to do it again. And we all just unanimously like, absolutely doing it again. So we were intended to do it 1 year. And that year went great. And the reason why it was so successful is because it was a great event. Nobody died.
Awesome.
And no major injuries or anything like that. But we had a lot of people come and we didn't lose our ass. And so, yeah, ticket sales and the people, but also the event and the community that was created around it really said, let's do it again. Now, last year was a significant hit for us. We made money the first year. We lost a lot of money last year, but we were able to manage those losses creatively. And but it didn't deter us because once we went back to the drawing table, so to speak, back to the whiteboard, we said, well, okay, the original festivals were 4 years. So let's make a commitment to do it 4 years.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, we've made that commitment to do it up until next year. That's not to say we won't do it again after 2024. It's just what we'll do is kind of reevaluate our goals and what we want to do and reevaluate everything. And but this year, I think we killed it with the lineup.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I think so. And ticket sales are good, and so that's encouraging. So I think we'll be excited going into the festival.
Absolutely. And what about your personal goals? What do you got outside of this that you're looking to do more of, or try something new? You got anything like that?
I mean, yeah, I think it's important for everybody to have personal goals. Mine are both professional and personal, but from a professional standpoint, I have multiple business. I want to continue to grow those things. I don't want any of them to go belly up. And so developing that team and being able to pull away and watch them succeed is definitely a professional goal of mine, is to let my general managers and my managers of Wheelhouse and to just be able to thrive. And so I cannot go there for 3 weeks and like things are great. And I show up and they're like, well, what are you doing here? They love me, but they're like, why are you here?
Right. We got this.
And so, but from a professional standpoint, man, everything kind of revolves around my wife and kids, And so we have a 15-year-old son, 11-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old daughter. And so when you have kids, man, everything changes in your life, especially with like a teenage boy and soon to be teenage girls. You're like, okay, well, what do you want? What's best for them? Well, that changes everything about your life. And so, man, having happy and healthy kids are so important to Courtney and I.
Yeah.
And so, we strongly believe that those types of things are fostered at home.
Absolutely.
And so we try to spend a significant amount of time with our kids and love on them and to make sure that they're successful, both in their studies but recreational lives too. So we're constantly, investing in our kids. So just seeing my family succeed is definitely the most important personal goal.
Okay.
Do your kids come to the festival and are they moshing?
Yeah. My son is so into hardcore right now.
So sick.
He's I posted on Instagram. maybe 2 weeks ago of him stage diving. So
What?
Dear and Beloved.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
to Death to Traitors, and so I was a little worried that he's going to stage dive and get plopped right down into the, the circle pit or right
Yeah.
into the mosh pit. But yeah, so he comes and loves it. I mean, he's really big into everything from Hate Breed to Vane FM to he's just really into hardcore right now. So he will definitely come. My middle daughter Penelope, she loves Turnstile.
Sick.
She loves Paramore. She
Yeah.
loves, stuff like that. And so she's going to come and watch Turnstile. My 8-year-old,
Yeah.
no, she's like, absolutely not. Anything
Yeah.
loud, screaming,
Wow.
she's like, I'm out, Dad. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, just come. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, I don't think so.
Do you
I'll
think
just
she'll
hang
grow
with
out
the
of that, or
grandparents."
is that just,
I think
her
so.
personality?
Yeah, because my son was really big into punk rock for the longest. And and then he hit about 12 and he was just like, nah, I'm not into it anymore. He started listening to hip hop, which is great because we
Sure.
listen to hip hop too. But I think he was kind of rebelling against his parents.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm going to do my own thing.
Right,
But we
right.
started taking him to shows all the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, wait, I love this.
That
So
is
he's
one-
even.
No, go
I
ahead.
was going to say one last thing. He's into like hardcore dancing too.
Yeah. Oh,
so
no
he's like
shit.
in the
Okay.
kitchen, practicing his spin kicks and stuff like
That's
that. And I'm
amazing.
like, yeah, kid. He's like, I can't wait to mosh during Hate Breed. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen.
Right.
You're not getting in there during Hate Breed, kid.
Right,
It's not
right.
going to happen, dude.
Yeah. That's one thing I can't wait to look forward to when having kids. Rod has kids. I don't.
I have twins, and
Yeah.
it's pretty ignorant. It's awesome, but it's awesome.
But I can't wait to
That's
see
awesome.
the development of their music tastes. Because for me,
Yeah.
that was such a pivotal moment in my life, just going to shows, learning about all these different bands. I grew up listening to, bands like Blink and Under Oath. And Under Oath is actually from Tampa, Florida, which is close to where I'm from.
Yeah.
A Day to Remember, like those guys are all from the same scene that I grew up in. And it shaped my life and who I am today. So I can't wait to get to that point. And it's so cool to see that you are now in that moment,
Yeah.
you can see that your kids are developing their musical tastes and what they want to
Yeah.
do. And it's awesome.
You can physically show them the bands that you grew up on,
Yeah.
which is so sick because you have Chasing Victory on your festival that Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's just, dude.
I was wondering what you were looking at. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, he's
I'm
gotta be
actually
looking at
like
the
breaking
lineup.
down all of these bands. They have Zayo. They have fucking Pennywise on
Yeah,
this. fest.
that's
It's
cool.
fucking
man.
awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
so excited about Pennywise.
Dude, what the fuck? So,
Yeah.
like the Chasing Victory one, I've like, not sarcastically, I've played with them like when I was like 18, in my like early hardcore days. I probably played 30 or 40 shows with those dudes and just kind of like spaced on some of these bands. Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking a plea for Pershing. I was in Sleep,
Yeah.
Sleep, Sleep, and they would play with them all the time. Like,
Yeah.
kind of nuts. That is awesome that you can literally physically show your son, like, hey, these were the bands I grew up on. And then he can kind of take away, oh, actually, my band that I listen to now took that sound from them. I saw them
Yep.
physically live before that
Yep.
genre's done. But yeah, I just
Yeah.
went through your festival and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, we are next week, next Thursday. I'm taking my wife and 2 daughters to see Brooks and Dunn.
Oh,
Too.
cool.
So, like, I'm a huge Brooks and Dunn fan. I'm gonna be honest. I love '90s country, but my
Yeah.
Penelope, my middle daughter, loves Brooks and Dunn. Man, she's so obsessed with Brooks and Dunn, and so I love the fact that I'm taking her to see Brooks and Dunn, and a few months later, she's gonna be side stage watching Turnstile and loving every single moment
That's
of it,
cool.
dude.
So sick.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah,
man. Well, I was just gonna say we gotta wrap this one up. We got Mark coming on after this one.
I'll just ask one quick question. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're a father of children. Would you ever recommend them getting into the industry?
Yeah. I mean, I would. Of course, like any industry, though, there are positives and negatives to it, and so being in the industry and seeing a lot of the negativity and a lot of the things that you don't believe in and don't support, being able to help kind of help them navigate those waters would be key. So I wouldn't. Well, that's just in life in general. But yeah, I mean, I think so. Absolutely, it's a great industry to be in. There's a lot of positive things that are going on in the industry, along with a lot of negative things too. So if you raise your kids right and you still in them, great core values and principles to live by, you think that they would flourish in that environment and not be captivated by all the negative that's in there as well.
Yeah,
For sure. Great answer.
I agree.
So
cool, man. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for coming on. They're taking some time out of your Sunday to do this. It means a lot, seriously, and I can't wait for this for this festival this year. It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, hope to see you guys down there.
Yeah,
Sparta.
man, for sure. Yeah, we'll make a trip.
Sparta.
There's so many great bands. Yeah.
All right, Johnny. Well, it was good talking to you, man.
Yeah, nice talking to you guys as well.